8 minutes gone past the hour of 9 o'clock in the morning time. Allow me first, as I say, good morning to you. In the same token, allow me to apologize for the delay. I think in the last 24 hours, we've thought us a lot of things. Sometimes, again, why we do apologize. But I want to say good morning to you, our listeners, on Classic Radio, 105.5 and 105.9. Our viewers on GBN Television, Channel 7, Channel 11, and Channel 20, to you wherever you are. And those of you that's on social media or any other digital platform, we say thank you for being part of this conversation on To The Point for today, the 13th day of the month of November. My guest this morning, as I've intimated to you, is the Acting Prime Minister, Andy Williams. And just to give you full appreciation, Minister, and you, the general public, the Minister will be here for about 15 minutes thereabout to give an update following the inclement weather we've had in the last 48 hours. Thereafter, I'll be joined by the officer in charge of the traffic of the Royal Grenada Police Force, ASP Baptiste, and a representative from NaDMa. Mr. Minister, we've gotten those pleasantries out of the way. Certainly, as a nation, the last 48 hours thereabout, it has brought with it a number of challenges for us.
Yes. I mean, we saw a case where we had extreme rainfall, and I could tell you, it shows that climate change is real, right? To start with, this year we had a hurricane on the 1st of July. I think it's the first time we had a hurricane so early, and now we are seeing this extreme rainfall in November. So yes, it has been eventful.
Can you give us an update? Because, there's been a lot of questions that's been asked regarding where are we 24 hours after? What happens going forward?
Right. So basically, yesterday when we saw the weather, what I did, I went out in the field, went to the different areas like the Monkuma, the River Road, right, and the lagoon, and to see to see it firsthand. Because someone could tell you about it, but when you see it, and let me tell you, Cadore, it's the first time I've seen, even in a lagoon road, first time I've seen the sea was at the same level with the road. And actually the whole road was being covered, by the water. And when you look at Tantine and the stadium, it was just devastating. So, I went out to see it firsthand. At the time, I was having a meeting with the Ministry of Infrastructure, and we all, the CTO, the PS, everyone, we all went on the ground to see exactly what was happening. And when we saw the amount of slides that was taking place and the reports we were getting, immediately we thought it was necessary to ease the traffic a bit. So what we did, we opened the Molyneux Road yesterday. It was set to be paved on Friday of this week. But we had to open it yesterday to ease the traffic. Otherwise, it would have added to the devastation. And the road is ready. The road is ready. It can be driven on with no headache at all. It's proper. The structure is solid. So as it is now, we open it for the first 24 hours. And while we are cleaning up the slides, most likely we will keep it open up until Friday. Yeah. So. And we heard of reports of sliding in St. David's, in Northeast, and even in St. Andrew also. And we have crews that are working speedily to bring back the place to a sense of normalcy. Up until last night, we had crews up until 2 a.m. last night working on clearing some of the road by Cherry Hill, by River Road. We had the RGPF coming with a fire truck to wash down some of the slush on the road. So we are really doing our best to react in the quickest possible time to get things back normal. Of course, it will take a little time, but we are on it. We say thank you to the volunteers who actually came out last night and this morning to ease the situation, and we have crews that are working also on the road to ease the situation. So yeah. In
terms of the and I'm assuming then a full assessment, an assessment will be carried out at some point to give us a full appreciation of the dollar value in terms of damages. But let's look at response time, because that has always been a critical area. A critical area. There's some, Mr. Prime Minister, that is suggesting, did this catch us blindsidedly, or did we see it coming at all?
Well, we had reports from the Met Office showing that we will have had rainfall yesterday. I don't think we anticipated the amount of rainfall that came yesterday. But all in all, this is how things work. This is Mother Nature. And sometimes you can plan for it, sometimes it can catch you off guard. But when it hits, there's nothing you can do about it. Really, actually. You can make all the preparation that you can. But what you can do is to ensure that you put things in place to mitigate the situation when it happens. And, that is where we are at. So, as it is now, for example, yesterday we had a case where the buses, when they went up, because of the slides, it took a longer time. On the bus terminal in St. George's, you had a lot of people there. Right, we had to reach out to the the National Bus Association, and they assisted us in getting people home. When, let's say around 8 o'clock last night at the bus terminal, it was clean in St. George's. We also had reports in Grenville about the same, and we reached out to the National Bus Association also. So sometimes, Cadore, you can do what you want. When Mother Nature hits, it hits. What you have to do is try and react in the quickest possible manner to get people back to a place of normalcy.
But when we talk on the issue of the bus, the transportation, obviously we were in a crisis moment last evening.
Yeah.
Is there an active plan that speaks to, in moments of emergency, what is the protocol? Because I got the sense that from a lot of other persons that the bus association may have arbitrarily decided on their own. Listen, Zafir, as they say in local parlance, and that has its own challenge as to what happens across the nation.
Right. So we were in communication with the National Bus Association. So we both together decided and came up with a plan to address the situation. However, the Transport Commission and the National Bus Association, they are working together to put a plan in place for times like these. The timeline is December, so we could look for something soon that will come out that will address that situation. So in a case cases like this happen, we have a plan on how we deal with it.
Well, I'm happy you've mentioned that.
Yeah.
But even outside of that, we have been waiting for quite some time. There's been conversation, the transport board,
yeah,
and a reform to our transport system.
Yeah.
Is that December timeline? Is that part of the general conversation where we can sit and say, well, listen, yes, here we are. We have a much more beefed up an effective transport system that is really
yes,
efficient?
So we have let me just say, we have a vibrant transport board now. And they have some plans in place. They have been talking with the National Bus Association and stakeholders, and they will come up with, they have a plan in place. They will present it soon. So I don't want to speak before, but you can look for some changes to happen and some changes for the better. Because when we talk about transformation, the transport system is very key and very vital. If someone has to leave St. Mark's and let's say to come to St. George's and you have issues and you have problems, it means that certain services and so will be withheld from them. Mm-hmm. And if in order to have a smooth flow of the economy also, we need the free movement of people to take place at a longer period of time. So let me just give you an example. You have some hotels in the south, when they're hiring, they only ask for people who live in a close proximity. It means that if you are qualified and you are living in the rural areas, you are just being, you have just got left out from a job, basically. So when we talk about transformation, we have to include the transport system so that we can have the free flow. And when we do that, then it will bridge a gap between rural and urban, and services can be afforded to the whole population on a whole.
Schools, there were schools that were affected as early as Monday because one of the utilities companies had their own challenges over the weekend, which by all indication from speaking yesterday, it was resolved. But certainly there was some trickle-over effects.
Right. So
we had the week Monday, his challenges, coupled with what happened yesterday. What can you tell us? Tam CC, for instance, was really compromised yesterday.
Yeah, well, actually, I was in Tam CC in the morning period. Myself and the principal, we did a walk around to see what we can do to really improve the system at Tam CC, because we really want to push skills in more, because we believe that our young people will have more opportunities to really evolve and to succeed in life. And skills is very important as we see it. It's very high on our agenda, on our transformation agenda. So we were there yesterday at the TAMCC, and when I left, in a matter of hours, the place was just transformed to a swamp, right? So yes, they had the challenges. I know the Minister of Education, he is working with his team, is working along with the principals and schools to see which one was damaged or which one got some damages, which one were not. And they are making they have made the assessment as to which one will open today and which one will be closed. But the idea is that those that are closed, those that got damages, we act on it swiftly so that our children can be back in school to continue the learning process. So, as I said, you cannot stop the rain from falling, but what you can control now is how you react after. And we are putting our best foot forward. We are making sure that all hands are on deck. Again, I want to thank NaDMa for the wonderful job that they are doing. We know that they have a challenge. When we have excess rain like this, the dams and so, get damages also, the water get muddy, and they have their own challenges. Major water lines sometimes are damaged, and they have their own challenges in getting these things back to normal. But I know, I spoke to Mr. Terrence Smith, and he and his team again, they are working very hard to bring things.
Let's look at Tantine a bit. Tantine Tantine has been for not yesterday, from that memorial, and it's a recurring decimal.
Yeah.
Is there any plans in place to really look at addressing that problem at Tantine? One is under sea level, but there's the outcries that in the 21st century, what plans are there to address that the challenge we have there?
So we had a company come to do a study, and it's not just Tantine, but 3 areas was studied, right? You had the same Tantine area, you had the Monuge area, and you had the tongue of Grenville. They have thus far given us the report, and the Ministry of Infrastructure now is now looking at it to see what we can implement to resolve these issues. So we have the reports. For example, the Monuge, where what caused the water to build up is right at the mouth where the water enters into the sea. The sand, there's a buildup of sand. They had a system there that was since in Gary time, and the structure is a bit compromised. So we have a plan to really, to improve on the structure, right? And in doing so, it can prevent the sand from coming and block it up so that the water can flow smoothly.
Right.
We also have the plan for Grenville, and where it was a pump was mentioned where the pump could pump all the water that is accumulated in Grenville. The same may have to be done for Tantine as it's under sea level.
Right.
So the Ministry of Infrastructure is reviewing it, and very soon we will come to the public. We will share the plan with the public, and then we will take it from there.
I know time is of the essence. We spoke of the Molyneux Road, and the release yesterday did say it would be open for 24 hours in the first instance.
In the first instance, yeah.
Based on your assessment, what is the plan?
So we will have to open it a bit longer. We have the Monkuma Road, which is a major road. We have some slides in that area. We have some trucks there now who are trying to get rid of the slides. We have the RGPF working with the fire truck, because what we have seen is that the slush on the road is causing the truck to skid a bit. So the RGPF, again, with the fire truck, we are working to really remove the slush so that the trucks can get up there and take care of the slides. So I'm seeing the road being open up until Friday, but the idea is to get rid of the slides so that traffic can flow smoothly once again. If we do that, then we could look at closing it.
Before you run, the different slides and different impediments still sitting across the road. Is there a timeline that is involved that we will see? For example, Tantine, there's a lot of silt, everything, and that in itself has become a secondary challenge. When you are applying the road, is there a schedule in place when, at least as a nation, we can say, listen, we go, but not just go back to sense of normalcy, but we can see the roads being cleaned and all of these different elements being sorted out, so at least we can traverse the nation.
As we speak now, the roads are being cleaned, and the idea is to do it in the quickest possible time. So we have contacted a number of people with equipment to clean the road, truckmen also, the RGPF, so all hands are on deck now. But let me just mention, it's not just the roads and the infrastructure, but the people also. So the reason why I'm here for 15 minutes is because I'll be going out in the communities, in different constituencies, visiting the people to see exactly what are some of the damages that they got and hearing from them. Because sometimes the road and so can be easily fixed, but the human aspect of things to me is the most important, and that's what me and my government value the most.
And I'm hoping that as you run it in your assessment, River Road. You saw water literally carrying vehicles away.
Yeah.
Have you had a conversation with any of the other stakeholders regarding ensuring that persons that were affected, there is a smooth process?
Right. So I spoke to our Minister of Labour, Attorney General, who is the caretaker for the area, and she has reached out to a few people in the community. Right, and we will go this morning to continue the process and to see exactly what we can do to assist in any way that we can. Sometimes it's emotionally, sometimes it may be a little assistance someone may need, but this is what we are here for. Right, we believe that government is for the people, of the people, and by the people. So you cannot have a government without people. So the idea now is to go out and to meet with them, and let's see what can happen and what we can do to mitigate in any situation to assist our people.
And you're totally satisfied before you go that the responses that we saw are sometimes limited response. What's your assessment going forward? How satisfied are you in terms of what happened? Some made reference to the lack of visibility of the police in controlling traffic and everything.
No, well, I saw the police yesterday on various points. I saw the van up and down with police going to different places to rectify the traffic. But sometimes when things happen, they cannot be everywhere at once. I remember, it kind of hit sudden, right? So, yes, I'm satisfied. And the reason why I'm going out to even not just sit down in our office and get a report, but I'm going to see for myself. And if there are any way that I can assist or, call the commissioner, or Baptiste, then we will do it. So the fact is that all hands right now are on deck. We are out going to the field, meeting with the people to see what we can do to offer assistance in any way that we can.
It's all hands on deck. They're out visiting the different constituencies, different areas that has been affected to see how we can bring back a measure of normalcy.
But let me just say this, that we are still in hurricane season. So we still have to be on our P's and Q's, still have to be careful. We still have to put measures in place for things like this because I remember just last year, I think it was in December, we had some serious rainfall too. So I just want to urge the public to be careful, and also you have slides, so be careful in your going out and you're coming in. Again, the less casualties we have is better.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Acting Prime Minister, in fact. Well, that is. It is 26 minutes gone past the hour of 9 o'clock. We take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we continue the discussion right here on To The Point for today, Wednesday.
Tourism is me. Tourism is you. Tourism is everybody, and tourism connects us all.
Did you know that tourism generates revenue and foreign exchange earnings?
Did you know it stimulates infrastructural development and facilitates cultural exchange among people?
You must know tourism is linked to all industries,
from agriculture to construction.
So support the industry today and be welcoming to all our visitors.
Tourism is my business. Tourism is your business. Tourism is our business. Listen, one and all. Tourism connects us all.
A message from the Ministry of Tourism
and the Grenada Tourism Authority.
I'm Stacia Blake with GBN News. From all of us here at the Grenada Broadcasting Network, we wish you and your family a joyous holiday season filled with peace, love, and happiness. Thank you for continuing to make GBN our nation's #1 newscast. It's been our honor throughout 2024 to bring you timely updates of local and international news, and we'll continue to earn your trust as we move into 2025. We wish our beautiful island nation God's continued protection as we move forward as one people who are on one journey with one future. Happy holidays from the GBN News team.
Minutes gone past the hour of 9 o'clock. Welcome back to The Point for today, the 13th day. What's on the 19th? I have no idea. The 13th day of November. The PM has left, and I want to say good morning and welcome to the studio. I want to invite Dr. Terence Walter, the man in charge of NaDMa, and also joining me in studio is ASP Baptiste, the officer in charge of the RGPF.
Traffic Department.
Of the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force. Gentlemen, the last 24 hours has, in some instances, it has offered a lot of questions, a lot of answers to a lot of challenges. But I will start with you, Terry, Mr. Dr. Walters. Assessment. What's your thoughts? I mean, give us an appreciation as to where things are based on what transpired across the nation for the past 24 hours.
All right, thank you. Good morning to all listeners and viewers, and good morning to you, Joseph. And yes, so we've had the events the last over the weekend. Also, we did have some rainfall, and then we had the significant rainfall yesterday, which caused some flooding, landslides across the country, and disrupted life as we know it. We have challenges with the water system, electricity, some parts, communication. So a number of areas were impacted by that event yesterday. Now we have to remember that we're dealing with climate change, and we are going to see these events happening more frequently, more intense at times. So we must pay attention to the issues of climate change.
I'm interested that we having this conversation that comes on the heels of COP29 that's taking place in Baku, Azerbaijan, and it certainly begs the question as to what is it that can be done, because in the face of yesterday's events, of course, there was multiple reaction, and most persons seem to be in a quandary and lost as to where we didn't see this coming.
Yeah, and again, we had the information from the meteorological office, right? The weather forecast did indicate that we will have rain, and there was a low chance of flooding. Okay, but then again, we have to understand that sometimes the Met Office will give us the forecast, but conditions will change somewhere along the line, and I think that's what happened yesterday, right? Because we did have the forecast, so it's not like the Met Office did not say anything. In all fairness, the Met Office did say that we were going to have rain yesterday, and there was a low chance of flooding.
So this isn't the case of anybody dropping the ball. It's just a case of nature.
That's right. And like I mentioned, we have to understand that we cannot prevent nature. We can't prevent the rainfall. We can't prevent storms and hurricanes. The natural events, we cannot prevent them. Thankfully, with storms and hurricanes, and so we have a good early warning system. If we go back to last year, let's go back to last December when we had a significant rainfall event in the north of Grenada, right? We were in St. George's and everything was fine and dandy, and there we were seeing videos and footage of what's happening in the north. Okay, so again, we have to be mindful that climate change is causing some changes that we have to be prepared for. We have to ensure that we adapt to these changes, right? Adapt our lifestyle to these changes.
And I'm happy that you said that, because we'll delve into plans. What, of course, the reaction should be from NaDMa and from the general public. But I'm going to go over to the man in charge of traffic at the RGPF. Your assessment in terms of responses and the challenges faced by us as a nation yesterday from the RGPF's perspective?
Pleasant good morning to the listening public and those viewing the program, and to you, Mr. Cadore. From our own assessment yesterday, realizing we had a number of landslides and some flood areas, resulting in a number of roads not being passable. And as a result of that, we had to do a number of diversions where it was practical. And I will just zero in with reference to the town of St. George, right? River Road was not accessible yesterday. Tantin was not accessible. And Sendal Tunnel Public Road was not accessible. It means, therefore, for vehicles to exit or get out of town, the only alternative route that was there to access was Lucas Street. And so just think of the volume of traffic that we have on our road at any given time. And with the situation yesterday, number of persons looking to get to their homes, get to their respective places, you had traffic all over. And Lucas Street, in its true sense and length, could not withstand that volume of traffic, which will lead to congestion. I was out there with the officers, with the wardens at different intersections, doing our best to see how we can mitigate and limit the congestion. But at the end of it, it was pure the volume that creates the congestion. So even though you had about 15 officers or traffic wardens outside yesterday, it still would not have made much of a difference based on the volume of traffic and the accessible route that was there to get out of town.
Well, I'm happy that you said that, because only recently on to the point, you did highlight the fact that there's an excess of, 63,000 vehicles. Registered vehicles in Grenada.
And for the last 2 weeks, we had 151 new vehicles being registered that came in on island.
Now, with that information, Dr. Walters, taking into account on a regular day the challenges that we've had, let's look at lessons to be learned, because I mean, it is always easy for us to beat up and show and make accusatory remarks. What is the lessons learned from this? And let's first start with traffic, because we are aware, we are agreeing that we have an issue at hand, or even on a regular day. How do we fix this? Not just in terms of an emergency response.
Right, from my own observation yesterday, the construct of our tongue, we have to be realistic here. The construct of our tongue, it will be very challenging for us to really prevent a reoccurrence in terms of the congestion we see if we have a similar situation. We now have to think deeper and look at some of the streets. We may have to reverse the streets in terms of one way, and we also have to look to take some proactive approach, not just from a traffic standpoint, but from a motorist standpoint. In the event that we have knowledge of we will have similar weather in the future, a person's take proactive approach. Maybe some people might have to leave before the weather come into effect, so you have less vehicles to access, or to use routes that can avoid us from really getting into town.
Terry, certainly, no arguments. This is a concern for NaDMa.
Well, yeah, I mean, the event, the traffic congestion, and so that's a concern. For example, if we had only River Road flooding, then the other areas were okay. All right, or if we had only Tantine flooding and River Road didn't flood, then you understand. But we had a situation where you had the stadium, you had River Road, you had Tantine, you had the tunnel, even Lagoon Road. Okay, so it's a situation where you have several routes, and then you had a number of landslides in different areas. So it is something that we need to look at, and for future reference how we mitigate. But again, I say to you, with climate change, okay, the events are becoming more frequent, more intense. They're doing different things. We've seen different things happening. I made the comment last night when I was a little boy. I remember rain falling whole day, whole night, and you didn't have this kind of flooding.
Right.
All right. I remember that.
We went to set and make paper boats.
Thank you. All right. And we were playing in the rain and all of that.
Right.
But now it's different. You have rain for 4 or 5 hours, and then you have this sort of devastation. So we have to look at ways to adapt.
ASP, but I appreciate those challenges. But in all fairness, and we will deal with this, would you agree that there need to be an effective communication plan? For instance, yesterday we were on, and one of the challenges that we had was access to information in terms of what do we say to the general public. So, for example, I'm not sure whether or not there was officers on the route, and you did intimate, but would you agree that maybe there may have been a failure in communicating what's happening on the ground to the rest of the nation?
Yeah, if I may say, we could have done better in that particular area. From the time we observe where certain roads are not passable, some release should have been done so the public could be advised accordingly, and that might have contributed to persons making certain decisions at the time.
Yeah, and I think you have to agree that people, they rely on the media, and that only further highlights the fact, Dr. Walters, of that develop that they need to maintain that close relationship between all personnel. But is there a plan though that would be deployed when you have these emergencies as it is, that NaDMa would roll out, that would speak to ensuring that all entities be informed simultaneously as to what's happening?
Well, there's the National Disaster Management Plan, okay? And again, whenever you have an emergency or you have a disaster, you have your emergency meetings But I mean, remember the circumstances yesterday. It was raining in a short period of time. For example, I was trapped in the traffic in town for 2.5 hours trying to get out.
And I'm agreeing with that.
So the circumstances, all right, the circumstances would dictate, how you do it, what happened, and all of that.
But notwithstanding the circumstances, I mean, maybe what needs to happen now is that we revise that strategic plan that looks to decide what are the options because yes, I know the telecommunication networks had their own challenges. Mm-hmm. But for instance, I remember I was speaking with somebody on the outside that spent an hour on the lane to get from point A to point B, and they were saying to me, Joe, number 2 buses are on the lane, and here we are, we're thinking number 2 buses on the lane. So we know, because we understand the traffic, we are determined, okay, well, it has to be, maybe Tantine must be a challenge, but I'm saying what I would probably suggest that you would agree that going forward, that they need to be, it doesn't matter what the response, we would need to find ways to beef up the response time so that we can communicate with the media houses and all the other stakeholders. Listen, guys, this is what's happening on the ground. Or maybe we have to sit and design going forward, what are the alternative routes, and how much of a challenge though I know there's a lot of remedial work that's taking place around the nation. Springs area, how much of a challenge did that add to the mayhem that was created yesterday?
You're saying remedial work, and so, but that may have added to the challenge, right? But I want to go back to the media houses, mm-hmm. and the responsibility to put information out, okay? Because there isn't a government radio station as such. All right, so we would depend on the private media houses, okay, when these events occur, okay, to get information out to the general public. So I think we need to have a sit down, right, an additional sit down with the media houses, okay, to advance this whole strategy as to when these events occur. How we get information out to the public, right? With Beryl, before Beryl, I mean, you have time, okay? With an event like yesterday, you don't have time. Again, on your side, okay? You need to get the information out almost immediately. That's why I called in to GBN yesterday to get some information. So I think we definitely need to have that conversation with the private media houses as to how we can get the information out to the people when there is an emergency that just creeps upon us suddenly.
Because what we did at the GBN, we simultaneously linked our networks. We were live on television because you're recognizing the need, but when it speaks to the ability of that plan, that plan that would suggest in the eventuality, even if of course everybody within the media houses knows point, how do we escalate? Who's the next point of contact?
Right.
Yes. So yesterday has happened. What's happening today, though, ASP?
From all reports, I communicated with all my different heads of the different departments in the Eastern Division, Western Division, Southern Division, and everything is back to normal as we speak, with the exception of Jones Road. Jones Road is still not passable at this time, but we got the benefit from the government to utilize the Molineux Road for the next 24 hours as of yesterday. So that area will be monitored. But I also want to advise the motoring public in some of the areas where we had landslide, despite the areas have been cleared, but there's a lot of mud and so in the road, so they should approach those areas with some caution. But things are almost back to normal at this time.
Good morning, well, we've lost that caller. 15 minutes on to the hour in the morning time. The number on screen, 435-2041. Terry, it is here. Climate change. Yesterday happened. Outside of the issue of traffic, what are some of the lessons? Because there's always lessons to be learned. From NaDMa's perspective, what are some of the lessons to be learned?
Right. So we need to have a greater focus on preparedness, individual, household, communities, and so. Because, for example, if there were some villages that were cut off, right, or they could have been, because if you have landslides in 3 or 4 places, that village would be cut off for a particular period of time. Okay, so we have to ensure that there are people in that village who are prepared to sustain themselves and sustain the village forever, how long it takes, until. So we need to have a greater focus on preparedness at the community level. We need to get, so people tend to think NaDMa. So whenever they hear an event, NaDMa, right? But NaDMa, there's a head office. 10 employees at this point, all right. So you have it's on the individuals across the country to ensure that they are prepared, because you're the first responder. You're the one right there in the event.
Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. Are you alive?
Good morning.
Good morning, caller.
Now, I think that no matter what the police could have. Good morning.
Good morning. Before you proceed, is it possible you can take down the device that's playing in the background?
Okay. Right. No matter what the police could have done yesterday, I mean, the traffic just couldn't move. And I'm glad I was out to have the experience firsthand. I was in the Belmont area because the buses, no vehicle couldn't pass through Lagoon Road. And then you're stuck at Belmont. And vehicles coming up from St. David's, Latterjess blocked, Syracuse blocked, La Colombe blocked. So nothing just couldn't move for hours. And we must congratulate the system, the police and ministry and so, for doing a quick job, at least to get the country back to a state of normalcy so that school children could have gotten home and people could have gotten from work by last night. Now, as far as the media is concerned, you're talking about getting information, but the media houses have a responsibility. Because if you look at when things are happening, let's say in CNN, they position their broadcasters at different points. And the broadcasters say, okay, I'm reporting from so-and-so in so-and-so place, and this is what is happening. So I don't know if for the future occurrences like that the media houses could come together and maybe MTV or whichever station say, okay, in a disaster, let us team up our reporters. So one could be at St. David, one could be at Grenville, and the live reports will keep coming in to the various stations. And this would help the situation quite a lot. Rather than saying, okay, we can't get information from NaDMa, we can't get information for the police, the media houses, or the media house, if you want to act alone, have a responsibility.
Well, ma'am, just
to
add to the conversation, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, our concern was, remember, any information that there are different arms within the media houses. There's a newsroom that would go out to collect the news reports. But for instance, I was on radio yesterday, and it defeats my purpose of being on radio if I'm not able to speak with the police. If I can then say to the police is saying to us, listen, X way is blocked, so I can say, folks, if you, let's say you're coming down the East Coast, because of the challenge that is within the town of St. George, maybe you will need to go back, use an alternative route. That's the sort of immediate response that I'm saying to, because the news is going to go out late in the evening. That's going to happen. But when you're on radio, as I was yesterday, when you're on in the immediacy of the event, you need information. As NaDMa would always say to you, don't guess what's happening on the ground. We use them. So I'm only saying we need to add to that conversation so that we can inform you, the general public, as to why am I in the south of the island and nothing is happening. So it has to work both ways.
I agree with you, and maybe NaDMa has to be reactivated. NaDMa has to be reactivated. So if this thing comes on you that you're not expected, that you would call out maybe your I don't know how your PROs or whatever to disseminate information, because it's an emergency and you have to know how to react quickly in an emergency. And the radio stations, yes, have to be fed with the information, as well as the stations have a responsibility to be on the ground. So it's a two-way situation.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you very much.
No problem. I think we get in the sense there has to be an overhaul. There must be an overhaul of procedures. Yes, there might be plans in place, but if things are changing, climate change is putting us in a tailspin. It means, gentlemen, that we need to add, reform, change, massage the processes a bit so that people, because porters will tell you in the absence of information, like for instance, somebody said to me they were told by the ministry since after 1 because of the situation that children can go home. And I'm saying, but that information didn't ever come to us here with the media.
Well, let me just say to you, Joseph, that I think we always need to review and revise. So I would agree with that. Okay, there's need for review and review. Yes.
Review and revise. Going forward, where are we? Things have the weather's held up a bit, and I'm happy that children got home really early. They're out today, because yesterday I saw images late in the evening, and I'm like, folks are saying that the bus association, busmen decided, you know what, Mocha Alley, things bad, I am going home. Yes, but we're going to go back to the telephone lines. Good morning, caller, are you alive?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning to your guests. I must say that that information needs to be, that communication information system needs to be updated. Dr. Walters, I came from Sudan yesterday, and I was in a country. Coming down, we went up the West Coast, no problem. But the West Coast, but there was some problems, some little slides that come down Moncoma. On the way back down, that was a problem. When we were leaving, so somebody said there's a sliding Dr. Bell to take the next road. We come down, when we got to St. Andrew to go over the Granite Tank, there's a problem with the Granite Tank. Come down, we took 3 hours in that road in St. David's. But I must say the chainsaws and them really work. I saw one of the former disaster coordinators, they was doing whatever he's doing. But the guys were cutting all the trees and along the road, so there's what? These are lane for one-way traffic. They unblocked the road in La Sagesse. Or when you got to Bacalet there are 2 bridges there. And what I find, what NaDMa should do, there should be an education program. Because when you see what blocked the bridge was a whole piece of tree stump, the whole piece of fridge, and all kind of different things. We must tell people to make sure we keep the river coast clear. Yeah? Another thing again, too, I look at the River Road. I mean, how come, not River Road, but the road outside Choice Bakery? Okay, eventually we got down the tongue anyway, too, but you had to know Grenada. Because we only got to West Hall, they say West Hall block, too. And we got to go to Perimeter, they say Perimeter Road block. So we had to go through La Femme and come out by Country Coast. So thank God, Grenada and the network we have. So we need a sort of communication. What I'm saying again, to construction work should not take place in November. There's a construction work that is going on right outside Choice Bakery, which should not have been. November is the wettest month. Why are you trying to construct a drain in November? When you know it's the wettest month? So that causes all the water to block and take away the thing. I don't know who is responsible will be paying for that. It shouldn't be taxpayers' money.
Okay, cool.
But there was no police on the road I saw there. The police passed and they go away. I know they can't be everywhere at one time, but we need, when something like that will happen, please pass through the FM and all that kind of different too. And we must have some information. Thank you very much.
Well, there are different departments have responsibility for different things. Drainage, the Ministry of Infrastructure, they will take care of that. And I don't necessarily think, and I don't want to get into the conversation, active judgment must be used at all time. So to say, well, no construction being done, I think the reality is that we have to learn to appreciate and deal with these climatic changes as they come. Planning and the other units, they would deal with those issues. Gentlemen, we are out of time. Terry, you gave me your assessment in terms of lessons to be learned. ASP, from the traffic department wise, lessons to be learned as we go forward?
From the traffic department, based on our observation and my personal observation, because I was on the ground, and the way everything happened yesterday, and it was an emergency case. It wasn't something that you could have adequately do prior preparations for, and the number of roads that was not passable yesterday and those that was accessible, it was highly difficult to avoid the congestion that we saw on our roads. I believe how everything unfolded as well would have contributed to information not reaching to certain persons at certain times. Yes?
Uh-huh. And I think in all fairness to the process, what you realize happened is that everybody was moving. We had a rush hour situation after 2 in the afternoon. Everybody's on the road at the same time. Normally you'd have the school kids, they're off after 2. By the time they get home, there's an ease of traffic. Then the working force, they go home at 4. But what you find yesterday happening, everybody's literally moving at the same time. An important point that was made, that Andre, the forecaster from Met Office, he hinted to it yesterday. Our personal responsibility. And Terry, you two did make, I want you to re-emphasize that. Let us realize as individuals, we have a personal responsibility to take care of our surroundings. You said, it doesn't matter what, old fridge and somebody rested somewhere, and I guess that must be added to the equation. Personal responsibility.
Yes, it has to be added, and I emphasized that earlier on, because each of us, okay, we have that responsibility to ensure that we're prepared. We do what is necessary. So just by throwing up a plastic bag in the drain, right? And if I throw one and I have 10 others throwing it, you understand what's happening there. So we have personal responsibilities.
And again, just to remind folks as we go forward, there may just be another recurrence if we have no control over it. NAWASA, they've always encouraged us. Water, so too NaDMa.
Yes.
You want to have emergency supplies of water, emergency supplies of foodstuff. And we have to keep ourselves actively engaged. Times have changed. The seasons have changed. And so too, and continue to change.
That's right. And
so too, ASP have to agree that our attitude has to change towards how we deal with these climatic events. Yes. Folks, time is against us. I know that there's a lot of calls. Persons would like to contribute, but so too.
I mean, if I may add here,
yes.
Okay, preparedness, right? I want to emphasize preparedness. We should know the hazards that can impact us, how they can affect us, and how we can prepare for them individually. And you need to start teaching the children. You send your children to school and you need to prepare them. Okay, if this happens, this is what you do. That kind of thing, right? So we really need to take it from the individual and the family level. And if we get it there, individual and family level, and we branch out into the community, the districts, the country, we'd be much better prepared for these events.
And we probably need to start listening to the weather report. Most people tend to tune off. If it says a low chance of flooding, you then have to ask yourself the question, am I in a flood-prone area?
Thank you.
We know the River Road is a flood-prone area. What do I do? Do I park my vehicle on the side of the road, or do I get a more secure location? Lagoon Road, whatever the case might be. We have to start actively thinking, how can I be a part of the solution? And not necessarily try to be maintained and be part of an ongoing problem. Dr. Walters, ASP Baptiste, indeed, I thank you. And earlier when we did have, for those of you wondering, we did have the acting Prime Minister, Andy Williams. We're in assessment mode. We are in a point where we have to reconsider what next. And we want to say thanks and encourage each and every one of us to try to be part of the solution. What can I do so that, God forbid, in the eventuality that it may not happen in this intensity, but we have to use this as a learning curve as to how we address what happens in the next eventuality that happens again. And so we want to encourage folks as well. If you out there, next time you having this sort of thing, feel free. Call into the radio station. Yesterday I was appealing to folks. Tell me where you are, what's happening on the ground. And you were surprised what persons were more interested in telling me. All I wanted for you to tell me what's happening with the traffic. And people were telling me all information that I don't need to know. And
sometimes, Joe, we like the blame game. We always want to blame somebody else for what is happening, okay?
But we have to leave the conversation here. Christmas in Dreamland continues. I'm leaving the confines and the luxury of the studio. And I'll be somewhere out there about where I love to be with some business person having a whole lot of fun. Until then, again, we do apologize and want to shout out our colleague GT. He too has been affected, severely affected, I understand. And I want to wish each and every one of us God's blessings, that it could have, bad as it was, it could have been worse, and we are still here in the land of the living. Until then, so long, everybody. And tomorrow, we're expecting a representative from the Royal Grenada Police Force. It's Thursday. They should be here. Until then, Grenada, have yourself a great one.
Thank you.